Oh, I do love cherry coke on Christmas Eve. Oh, hello there. Welcome. How are you? Thank you. Please make yourself warm. It's very cold this time of year. Ah, yes. Oh, me? I was just about to read a story. Oh, really? Well, I may have just the thing for you. This book here has some of the greatest stories ever told. Is there something specific you'd like to hear? A tale from the Quran, you say? Well, I have just the thing for you. Let's see. Ah, yes. How about a tale from the life of a prophet? From Noah to Abraham, Moses to Joseph, the eating of the apple, the healing of the blind. Everywhere you go, you see a great story from the holy book. And here we have perhaps the greatest story. You think you might have guessed it? Indeed it is, the story of the great prophet Jesus. This story would be two parts. The first about his mother and the second about his miraculous birth. I ask you now to join me as I read this tale of bravery, love, courage, and the miracle that is now known as Christmas. It began like most great stories. It began long ago, in a land far, far away to the east, the like of which you will not find in the world today. The land began off the shores of the Mediterranean and ended on the riverbed of the Tigris. The people of the land had lived in peace and prosperity for more than a century, but slowly the times grew dark and unrest claimed the land. Although these were a religious people, many started to turn away from God and started to stray away from the heavenly teachings. Love turned into hate, kindness into hard-heartedness, and all that was sweet slowly became bitter. But amongst the people, there was a family that never lost their faith in God, and so in return, God had chosen them amongst others. This was the family of Imran, and what a family they were. It is said light emanated from their faces, and love spread everywhere they went. Alas, as the years flew by, Imran and his wife Hannah grew older and older and stayed childless. Hannah, being a God-fearing woman, never blamed God for this, but continuously thanked him for all his grace. You see, my friend, in life we'll face many difficulties, but we must always have faith in God. Now, let's see what happens next, shall we? On a day quite like this one, as Hannah gazed out onto the horizon, her eyes fell upon a tree that had a bird's nest. Hannah pondered as she saw the mother feeding her chicks in the nest. Although Hannah never complained and still was not complaining, she did secretly wish to have a child. So later that night, she raised her hands to the heavens and prayed and asked the Almighty to grant her wish. Being a God-wary person and one who truly loved and appreciated everything from God, she made an unbreakable vow that if God the Almighty was to grant her a child, that the child will be dedicated as a servant of God. Indeed, the Almighty, being so compassionate, so merciful, looked upon Hannah and granted her wish. For a just Lord always shows mercy to their most humble of servants. You might have guessed it, a baby was on the way, and joy was the garment of the day. She said to Imran, "I want to vow that the baby in my womb will serve Jerusalem." Imran agreed, and they waited day by day, counting, slowly as the days passed. But, as with every great story of triumph, there is always heartbreak. A short while before the child was born, Imran passed away, and Hannah was left all alone. I know what you're thinking. This story is just taking a very, very sad turn. But we must always remember, it is God, the Almighty, who gives sustenance. And it is God, the Almighty, who looks after his creations. Now, keep that in mind and keep a stiff upper lip as we see what happens next. When the day finally arrived and the child was born, to her astonishment, Hannah saw that the child is a baby girl. And as was custom of the day, a boy was much easier to raise within the confines of religious environment. She knew that God had a bigger plan. The child was called Mary, and Hannah knew that with the guidance of God behind her, that this child will be a blessed child, and she must go to the religious men of the land and tell them of the vow she made for the child. When she entered the city and spoke to the clergymen, she presented the child Mary and told them she is the daughter of Imran, and she has been vowed to serve Jerusalem. The men were astonished, and all agreed that this child's father was one of the greatest men of the land, so they all decided that they would like to raise her. Well, how about that? I told you, didn't I? God never leaves his creation. He always is the most merciful and the most beneficent. Mary was born from having no father figure to having plenty of people wanting her to be their surrogate daughter. Oh yes, you're quite right. There's a lot more to this story. Let's see what happens next, shall we? From the men that were present, there was one who believed it was most important for this special role to go to him. After all, he was a prophet in his own right. Indeed, that man was Zachariah, prophet of God and most pious man of the land. He was also the uncle of the child, as he was married to her maternal aunt. The suggestion was made that the men will compete for who should be raising Mary. So the men decided the most civil way was to draw lots. They would each throw a pen into the river, and the person whose pen floats will be the guardian of Mary. The men reached the river and threw their pens in, and as the prophets before him, Zachariah showed his miracle. All the pens drowned, apart from his, and with the utmost delight he was announced the victor and new guardian to the baby Mary. Well, you may call that luck, but me, I say there is a great planner at work here, one who is just and merciful, full of love, just like the house of Zachariah is about to be now that Mary's entered it. Zachariah was full of joy. He went to Mary's aunt, his wife, and told her, "O Elizabeth, this child will be our relief in this world." And indeed she was. Zachariah was old, and he and his wife were childless. But when Mary entered the home, it completely changed. New spirit had taken over the home, and it was filled with happiness and joy, light and blessings. They both felt it from the first day. The baby Mary was a special baby. Zachariah raised Mary with the best of mannerisms. She had the best upbringing, just like her parents. She would stay in her room worshipping God day and night, and as such, God bestowed her with his blessings. Even the great prophet Zachariah was pleasantly surprised to see her miracles. Indeed. For one night, he entered her room to bring her food, only to find a feast laid in front of Mary. The same happened the following day, and the day after that, and all the days of her life. So one evening Zachariah asked her, "O Mary, where do you get this sustenance?" To which she replied, "From God Almighty, the most compassionate, the most merciful. For indeed it is God who provides sustenance, and he wills without limits." With a tear in his eye, Zachariah was reminded of the mercy of God, the love that God had for his humble servants. And so that very night, Zachariah prayed to God. He asked God to give him a son that would inherit the lineage of Jacob and Joseph. So, do you see a pattern here? Indeed, I guess you're thinking about your own life now and the blessings that you have. Can you guess what happens next? God, with his infinite power and wisdom, granted Zachariah his prayer and gave him a boy. And like those who came before him, he would one day grow up to be a great man. History will remember this boy, and his name will be eternal, for indeed, this was the great prophet Yahya, or as he's known in more common tongue, as Saint John the Baptist. And with that, the miracles of Mary were filling the hearts of the believers. There are many great people who share the page with Mary, but none greater than the individual our next chapter focuses on. Can you guess who it is? You're right. Now? No, I can't continue now. But don't worry, the story of Mary does not end here. For tomorrow, we'll be reading the birth of her son, Jesus. No, please do stay. We're about to put on the supper. We have some Yorkshire pudding, roast turkey. 'Tis the season. You sure? Okay then. Be back here tomorrow at the same time. God bless and good night.
Before you go, don't forget to check out our wide range of shows and programs. If you've been enjoying our content but haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to hit that button so you never miss an update. And while you're here, drop us a like. It really helps us reach more viewers and continue improving the channel for you.